Hello, I'm Elliot Jager, and I've written a book about the Balfour Declaration. It's called the Balfour Declaration, appropriately enough. But it's not just about the Balfour Declaration. It's really about, if you understand the Balfour Declaration, if you understand what led up to it, if you understand what happened after it was issued, then you really understand the nature of the Arab-Israel conflict in the year 2018. So, give me 3 minutes or so, and let me see if I can tell you about the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was a letter. It was written by the Foreign Secretary of Britain during World War I, Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour. It was written to an important Jewish leader during that time who lived in London. His name was Rothschild. He was a member of the House of Lords, so he's known as Lord Rothschild. It began a process. That letter from Balfour to Rothschild began a process in which the international community came to embrace the idea of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. And from that, it was embraced by the League of Nations, and from that, it was embraced by the United Nations. And this idea of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine is really to reconstitute the national home of the Jewish people that had been in Palestine and for which the Jews longed to return. Now, that's who wrote the letter. What was happening the day the letter was written was that the world was at war. The war between the Central Powers and the Allied Powers. And the Central Powers included Turkey, Ottoman Turkey, was led by Germany, led by Austria-Hungary. So you have on this one side, on the Central Power side, you have Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, which is today Turkey. And on the other side, you have France and Britain and Russia. And just around the time that the Balfour Declaration was written, the United States entered the war on the side of France and on the side of Britain and Russia. So that's a little bit about what the letter was and what was happening at the time that it was written. Now, at the time that it was written, Britain didn't control Palestine. It was still under the control of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. But the Ottoman Turkish Empire had been crumbling even before the war. And on November 2nd, 1917, still the Ottoman Turkish Empire ruled much of the Middle East. In fact, and here's something worth understanding, Turkish and Sunni Muslim, the Ottomans had ruled the Middle East since 1299. All of the Middle East. There were no sovereign countries. There were no sovereign Arab countries. The nation-state sovereignty is a construct of Western international law. The Ottomans were the rulers of the Middle East because they created a Muslim caliphate. And the Sultan was the supreme leader because he justified it on the basis of Islam. So for ordinary Muslims in the Middle East, what mattered was not what was happening with the Sultan, but what was happening in their families. Their loyalty was, whether they were Arabs or Turks or Persians or Kurds, their loyalty was to their clan, to their tribe, to their immediate vicinity, and only peripherally to the Sultan who was so far away. It follows that there was never an Arab state in Palestine. There was never a Palestine ruled by Arabs. Is that clear? There was never a Palestinian Arab state, full stop. But Palestinian Arab nationalism developed. And it developed as an outgrowth of the First World War and in parallel with the development of political Zionism. Political Zionism, the desire of the Jewish people to return to the land of Israel, was rooted in the Zionism that you may know about simply by reading your Bible and reading ancient history. That's a little flavor, a little touch of the Balfour Declaration. This is the book. It's about the Balfour Declaration, but it's really also sets up why, who was involved, what was going on, what happened before, on what basis would the Jews think that they should have Palestine when most of the people living at the time in 1917 in Palestine were not Jewish. All of these questions deserve an answer, and I've done my best to do it. Thanks a lot for listening. Get the book.